I should probably talk into the mic.
I hear
on
it
a
helps.
podcast.
The noise complaints. That's not great.
Is that you just wanted that to be in the open?
Yeah.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Morale Podcast, where we do our three favorite things. We talk a little bit of booze, we talk a little bit of beer, and a whole lot of basketball. I'm your host, Ethan, and joining me, as always, the glasses wearing, the tall guy, the old school Portland Trailblazers shirt wearing Mitch.
Hola, senor. I love this sweater. Shout out to Grandpa Chet. Got this out of his closet.
Mitch is literally rocking like a Portland Trailblazers Leatherman jacket.
I mean, it's not full on Leatherman jacket. I'd have like the buttons, but it's got like the stripes everywhere that like the Leatherman jackets always have. I love this sweatshirt though. I think I'm gonna start wearing it more.
It's a good looking shirt.
Yeah,
it's
very old
Letterman
school.
jacket. All
Very
right,
old school.
So today we are drinking another beer. We've got another beer on the podcast today.
So this one we picked 50% because we know the brewing company and we like it, and 50% because we love the name, which is the Rar & Sons Adios Pantalones. Goodbye, pants.
And just so you know, me and Mitch both aren't wearing pants.
Yeah, why not? We got to get comfortable while doing the podcast. Okay, so Rar & Sons, that is a local brewery here in Fort Worth. It was originally created by Fritz and Aaron Rar. It's been around since about 2006. They have a couple of main staples, which is like their blonde lager, their Rar's Red, and their Ugly Pug. And this Adios Pantalones has gotten a lot of traction recently. It's gotten very popular over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I was first turned on to this beer by ladies' man Tom. He orders it a lot, and I hadn't actually tried it until we just cracked it open, but I had seen him order it a lot. It seems like it wants to be a Mexican beer, but it's not, which is interesting.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, they're like trying to go for that Mexican beer vibe, but like put the lime and lemon in it beforehand, if you know what I'm talking about. Like it's got a bit of a weird taste that's like not like your Corona.
Yeah, that's exactly what you described it perfectly. It tastes like a Corona, where but before you put the lime in it, you have that little like skunky taste to it. You know what I'm talking about? But you don't get that until the end. So you taste it, and it tastes like a regular Corona. And then afterwards, you're like, oh, wait, this isn't a Corona with lime. It's an Adios Pantalones.
Yeah, so I'm going to sip on it and see if it settles in a little bit more.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. I wouldn't say it's my favorite beer, but I mean, I'm going to finish it because
But a nice
I
local
opened it.
one. A nice local one. I really love their brewery, too, by the way.
Yes, Rar & Sons do love the brewery.
Yeah.
They're blonde. I get it all the time. It's amazing. Love supporting the local community out here, and just it's a good beer.
Yes, and we will dissect it a little more later.
Absolutely, we'll definitely get more into it and definitely open up a little bit more about it. Not once we're a couple of cans deep. But today on the podcast, we are gonna kind of be recapping a little bit more about what's happened in the past week and a half or so in the NBA, but. We picked out some winners and losers of the offseason so far, Mitch, right?
Yes, we did. The offseason isn't completely done, but for the most part, all the teams' rosters have kind of rounded out with what your star players are going to be, mostly what your rotation players are going to be. It's mainly minimum guys coming in. There's a couple key dudes that could still come in, but we really, at this point, know what the teams are looking like going forward. And so, we're going to hit you with a couple of winners and losers.
Yeah, definitely. There's some pretty big winners so far this offseason, and there's some pretty big losers. I'm going to start off with my first loser just because I'm really excited to talk about this guy, and I think it's really funny. Poor Trevor Ariza, man. That guy is a loser of the offseason. He has been traded 3 times, been on 4 teams in the past, I think, 36 hours, I believe, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, that guy actually broke the record in the NBA for most times traded for a player.
Hey, you got to be good at something, right? He's really good at being traded. He's amazing at that. Everyone loves the idea of having him, and then also loves the idea of trading him away.
Yeah, I mean, he is the typical guy of good enough to want, but not good enough to keep. So Trevor Ariza started the offseason with the Portland Trailblazers and then was shipped off from Portland to Houston, then flipped from Houston to the Pistons, and then traded from the Pistons to the Thunder, where he currently resides.
Yeah, get the moving trucks out, man. He's going to have to buy some stock in U-Haul or something like that because he is all over the country. I really liked having Trevor Ariza on our team last year. He came in, he's a solid vet. He hit threes. He was still a good perimeter defender. He is getting very old, though, which is probably why he's that $12 million expiring contract that's just floating around and everybody wants the expirings going into next season. So I get why he's been traded a lot, but it still is, it's kind of wild to think that he started on the Blazers earlier this offseason. And I kind of assumed that he was coming back, and now here he is getting all this national attention for just getting traded from one place to the next.
So Trevor Ariza has been in the NBA for 16 years, and he was originally drafted number 43 overall to the New York Knicks in the 2004 NBA draft. So he's had a good career. I mean, to be a late second round draft pick, or I guess not late, but like a mid second round draft pick, and to have a 16-year career is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive. I mean, just to have that kind of longevity in your career, and he has been relatively healthy throughout his career. He's played on several good teams. He's won championships. I mean, he has had a great career, and here at the tail end, there's just some weirdness going on. And it's just funny that he broke the record for the most times being traded. I never even thought of that being a record, but he really kicked into hyper gear here in this offseason, getting traded 3 different times.
So the amount of teams that he's played for is actually lower than the teams he's been on, just because he's been traded all these times he's offseason and never actually put a jersey on. So technically he's been on the team, but it doesn't really count. But just going over this, he was drafted by the Knicks. That same year he was drafted, he was traded to the Magic. And then after a year later, he was then traded to the Lakers. And then he was on the Lakers for a couple of years to about 2009. Then went to the Rockets from 2009 to 2010. Played in Charlotte for the Hornets for 2 years till about 2011,
Man, I
2012.
forgot about that.
Then was on the Wizards for 2 years and played there until 2014. Then was on the Rockets for 4 years, where he played from 2014 to 2018. Then went to the Suns for a weird half a year. Then went back to the Wizards. So then he's back to the Wizards and played 43 games there to finish out the season. It was a midseason trade between the Wizards and the Suns. Then signed with the Kings in the offseason, and then was traded from Sacramento to Portland. And that's where he was before this offseason, and then he got traded 3 more times after that.
Man, talk about the ultimate journeyman. That guy has been all over the place. Good teams, bad teams. He's had big roles. He's had small roles. Trevor Ariza has had quite the career.
So he's suited up for 9 different teams, almost a third of the NBA.
That's hard to do. I actually remember at one point Nate Robinson was kind of getting near the end of his career. He said that he wanted to play on every single team in the NBA. I was like, that's just not going to happen. That's impossible.
Trevor Ariza is on his way.
Trevor Ariza is probably about as close as a guy can get by suiting up for 9.
If he plays this season, odds are he'll get to a third, because unless he gets traded again to another team, if he plays for the Thunder this season, it will be his 10th team in the NBA.
I'd be willing to bet that somebody trades for him at some point too.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Thunder trade him. I mean, I think a team in the championship hunt would be interested in acquiring a guy like him. The problem is his contract is too big for a true contender.
I was going to say, if for no other reason, I could see somebody trading guaranteed contracts away for a $12 million expiring going into this big free agency class. If for no other reason, I bet the Thunder could get another first-round pick for it.
And we know one thing, the Thunder love first-round picks, man.
Yeah, it's like watching an episode of Hoarders with those guys.
All right, so that was my first loser. Mitch, let's go to a happy time. Who's a winner this offseason?
A winner. Big ol' my guy, Gordon Hayward. That guy has turned one Western Conference All-Star appearance into like $300 million or something like that. He just got a contract, 4 years, $120 million to go play for the Charlotte Hornets, which I think everyone thought that he was on his last leg. He is getting a little bit up there in age where he's 32 or 33 now. And to give him this long of a contract, I think is the surprising part. But it is a good time to be a member of the Hayward family right now.
Yeah, that guy got paid.
Yeah, he got paid. Like a guy that you think is going to be an all-star for the next 4 years kind of paid, which he has shown that he can be that player. But ever since playing for the Celtics, he's not really been more than just a role guy. And now he's going to the Hornets, which you'd think that the keys are going to LaMelo Ball for him to just kind of like go and do whatever he wants. So it is a bit of a weird fit, and I don't understand it from the Hornets perspective. But from the Gordon Hayward perspective, you have got to be a very happy man.
All right, so I want you to get your calculator out because I'm looking at all the contracts Gordon Hayward has signed in his career.
All right.
So he started off his first year with the Jazz, a 4-year, $11 million deal.
Okay.
And then he signed a extension with the Jazz, a 4-year, $63 million deal. Then he went to the Celtics and signed their max, a $128 million deal.
Ooh.
And now he's getting another max from the Hornets, a $120 million deal.
Hold on. I got this. Yep, $322 million made by one Gordon Hayward at a Butler University.
Who, I don't know if he's ever made an All-Star game.
One.
He's made one.
He's a one-time All-Star.
He's a one-time All-Star. Man, his agent, well done, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
Yeah, round of applause to Gordon Hayward's agent.
Wow, like, oh my goodness.
I was originally stunned when he didn't take up that player option because he was going to make 37 mil this year.
34.
34? I'm sorry. 34 mil this
You
year.
did that last pod, too.
Whatever. I like to think he makes more. It's hard to keep track of all the money that Gordon Hayward has. But I assumed that he was going to be taking that because I think the conventional wisdom was that he's not going to be an all-star and he's not a max player anymore, especially after that horrific ankle injury that he suffered the very first game he played with the Celtics and was just never really the same afterwards. I did not foresee this happening at all. I did not think that the Hornets were just going to, I don't want to say they wasted their cap space on it because he's still really good. But I don't know. It was kind of weird. It was a bit of a weird move for the Hornets, but again, happy days in the Gordon Hayward household. Good for you, Gordon. Go make your money, and hey, lead the Hornets to the 8th seed in the playoffs. Why not?
I mean, I guess the one con of Gordon Hayward signing this deal is he has to play with LaMelo Ball, who I know you love, but
yeah, no, he's gonna have to run and push him over and grab the ball from him if he ever wants to actually shoot the ball ever.
I mean, who cares if you shoot the ball? You're making all that money. Like, you can sit there and do nothing. I don't care.
That's a good point.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, Gordon Hayward, definite winner, which kind of conversely makes the Hornets a little bit of a loser.
Yes. Weirdly enough, the Hornets are kind of a loser for giving Hayward that contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about another winner here, though. And I'm going to go to the defending champ Los Angeles Lakers. Definite winners of the offseason. They have brought in just a lot of talent to just fill out their roster. Montrezl Harrell on the cheap, traded for Dennis Schroeder. I mean, you get the 6th man of the year and the runner-up.
They're better than they were when they won the championship, I think, at least. I mean, the one thing that may be holding them back is the impossibility of LeBron James regressing, being that he is going to be 37 years old. Please double check my stats on that. I think it was year 36 for him this year. Either way, he's super old, and it feels like he's never going to be bad or never going to regress because he has changed his game so many times.
35. He's 35.
35. Oh, wow. Sorry, LeBron. I assumed you're older than what you were.
Well, his hairline says one thing.
But it's amazing to me that he has not been regressing at all. He changes his game to get better. I mean, you saw him taking those deep threes last year, which he never had taken any time in his career because he knows that that's the type of thing that he's got to add to his arsenal. And that is the only reason I could think that the Lakers don't win back-to-back is some sort of injury or LeBron regressing, which is just not going to happen because they're better this year.
Yeah, I mean, again, you basically turn Danny Green and a first-round pick into Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder.
Yes.
That is a role player and a guy who's not going to play on your team because it was the 28th pick, and even if he does break the rotation, he's barely getting there, to two guys that are just going to be like crunch time minute getter.
Yeah, they still have Markieff Morris. They still have Alex Caruso. They still have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Like, this team is... They went from being a team that was very clearly backpacked by LeBron and AD in the bubble to a team that's actually has role players that are going to step up. Like, Marc Gasol is going to step up. Even if he doesn't score a point, he's going to play amazing defense. Montrezl Harrell is probably going to step up because he's not going to be relied on to go and guard the biggest, baddest centers in the NBA anymore. Like, their team is much more rounded and complete this year, I think, at least.
They turned JaVale McGee and a second-round pick into Marc Gasol.
Yes.
Like, just churning out deals that are helping the team. I mean, you look at the starting five, it's probably going to be LeBron. You got KCP back, which that might be their one blip of the offseason, is they probably paid him more than they needed to. Mm-hmm. But even then, it wasn't that bad of a deal. It was a 3-year, $40 million, I think. Not all of it guaranteed.
Yeah. And KCP's like been a pretty loyal Laker too. Like, he's stuck around through some bad days pre-LeBron, so it makes sense. Like, hey, give him his money. He's a good role player, guy that fits really well next to LeBron because he shoots so well. But I would have been willing to bet that if they ran it back with the same roster, that they would not have won the championship with Rondo, with Danny Green as like kind of your main guys. But now that they have retooled the way they have this offseason, they have got to be the big money to win.
And another underrated signing was Wesley Matthews, because he probably starts for them. Because again, you probably go LeBron at the 1, the pseudo 1, KCP, Wesley Matthews just to add some defense and shooting. Then you go Anthony Davis and Marc Gasol. Like, that starting 5 is filthy.
It's filthy. I'll be honest, I think I just totally blacked out in my head that Wesley Matthews is playing for the Lakers. I'm just going to pretend like that's generic shooting guard instead of actually being Wesley Matthews, because it hurts my heart so bad. For those of you who don't know, Wesley Matthews is arguably one of my favorite Blazers of all time. And to see him play for the Lakers right now is just like a stab and a twist to the heart.
Absolutely. He was real sad when that happened,
I'm
y'all.
still sad.
But and then, so you have that starting 5, and then you have Schroeder and Montrez coming off your bench. Like, they are the team to beat this year. They got a lot better. It is downright scary how good they could be. And okay, so maybe, you don't want to start Wesley Matthews. You can start Schroeder. You can start Caruso. Like, they have so much depth and so much flexibility at so many positions. They are not weak in one. They are good at the guard spot. They're good at the scoring guard spot. They're good at the defending guard spot. They're good at the scoring wing and defending wing, and they're good at the scoring big and defending big. Yeah, they can do everything.
Exactly. No, I think that you're spot on. The Lakers are definitely winners of this offseason.
They hit a home run.
Yes, they absolutely hit a home run. I think Rob Pelinka really showed off his general manager moxie this offseason, where last offseason it was good. They were definitely going big fish hunting for Kawhi, and they're like, oh, we have all this money. Let's like kind of toss it around. Got Danny Green, got Rondo, whatever. But this offseason, to me, really proved that he is like kind of the real deal kind of general manager.
Yeah, they killed it. I mean, in every sense of the word, they're the team to beat, and they were the team to beat, and they definitely got better.
Yeah.
All right, Mitch. So who do you have next? Winner, loser? You just take it and go.
Okay. I'm going to go loser for the next one, and I'm going to go with the Toronto Raptors. I think that, they lost Marc Gasol, they lost Serge Ibaka, and they highly overpaid Fred VanVleet. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not me saying that the Raptors are going to be a bad team next year. It's not me saying that, like, oh, they're collapsing or anything like that. But you got to think about the fact that their main core, some of their best players and like their depth has really left with the Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol leaving. You're really banking on Chris Boucher to come and play a really big role on your team now, and you definitely overpaid Fred VanVleet. I think that he probably should have gone to another team, should have gone to the Pistons or the Hawks or someone like that. And the reason the Fred VanVleet signing is a big deal is because they were front runners in the Giannis sweepstakes in next year's free agency.
If he were to leave, he was projected.
If he were to leave, he had a good relationship with Masai Ujiri, and I think that's why Giannis was leaning towards potentially on the Raptors, but now you've used a lot of that cap space with Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, and it's a team that's kind of built to win now. They have a lot of good young talent, but they're also are experienced young talent. And you just have a gaping hole at your big. I mean, you've got Chris Boucher. You went out and got Aaron Baines, and you got Alex Len. That's that's your rotation with the big spot that's going to keep you in contention in the East?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the guys that are going to have to go up against Joel Embiid? No way.
Exactly. I think that they they were the 3 seed. I would have them being a 3 or 4 seed if they had not lost Marc Gasol and Ibaka. I think that they're probably falling down the Eastern Conference standings now because the Nets are going to pop up there. The Sixers, I think, are going to be better next year. I think the Pacers are still going to be good, but I think that they're now on the same level as the Pacers after this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, you've got good bigs you've got Joel Embiid, you've got Nikola Vucevic, you've got Miles Turner, you've got Sabonis. Like, these are all guys that can, like, feast in the paint, and the Raptors have no answer. I mean, yes, Siakam's a good defender, but I mean, he doesn't have the mass to go up against a true 5.
Yeah, and you're throwing Baines and Boucher, and now Alex Len at these guys. Like, it's just not the same quality as when you had the Ibaka Gasol tandem. Losing those guys is going to hurt a lot. I know that you didn't want to pay them. I know that they're getting older. I know you're probably trying to go anew and like really give the team to Siakam, but I think that they're losers of the offseason so far.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to go about it. I think that losing either Ibaka or Gasol would have been okay, but losing both and Ibaka going to the Clippers on the deal he signed showed me that they could have matched it or they could have offered him that, and they didn't, or he chose not to go back to them.
Yeah, I think it was eventually like he chose not to go back to them because I heard, throughout the process, it was like Raptors and Lakers. Like, they're kind of the 2 main teams. Sorry, I had a burp coming up.
The Adios Pantalones.
It's getting to me, yeah.
All right, well, speaking of the Adios Pantalones, let's take a break here and just kind of rehash what we think here. Where are we at?
I think that on, hot summer day here in Texas, sitting by the pool or out on a lake or whatever, it's a great beer you can put 3 or 4 of them down just sitting there hanging out because it is pretty light and it does have like quite a lot of good flavor, but it's still not the same as your Corona with a lime in it.
Would I take it over a Dos Equis or a Corona? No. Am I going to open another one? Yes.
Yes, I think that's a great way to explain it.
Yes, it's good. Like, I mean, I wasn't sold at the beginning. Let me tell you, I was not sold. But the more I finished it, and the more I drank, and then I eventually finished it, I realized I was like, all right, not everything has to be a home run. This is a solid double.
Yeah.
It's a solid double.
It's a solid double. It's not breaking the bank for like a really fancy, expensive, like kind of like craft brew. But it's still light. It's light. It's easy to drink. It's not super high in IBUs, and I think that it's refreshing.
And if you wanted to be that guy that went a little like outside the box, like you didn't want to show up to the party with like Corona or Dos Equis or be that guy, like you could show up with this and really accomplish the same goal and look a little like outside the box.
Be the guy without pants.
Be the guy without pants.
Show up as the guy that said goodbye to pants tonight. Be that guy.
I did not see that one come. Okay, you gotta take us to our next thing.
Okay, all right. I'll go again. Okay, so I'm going to. I broke Ethan over there. You know what? I'm gonna go with a winner. I'm wearing them on my T-shirt right now. The Portland Trail Blazers.
All right. Well, you can just talk. I'm gonna drink this. Because I know I'm going to have a minute, so
yeah,
please.
Give me a minute. Okay. So the Portland Trail Blazers, what they have mainly done this offseason is they didn't go out and get a star player, but no one really went out and got like star players outside of maybe like Drew Holiday to the Bucks or something like that. But we totally built up our depth and our bench, and we brought Carmelo back. We brought Rodney Hood back. We added Enes Kanter for Mario Hezonja, which is just a fleece of a trade all by itself. We traded for Robert Covington. We signed Derrick Jones Jr. I actually have read quite a lot of stuff that says that's probably going to be Derrick Jones Jr. and Robert Covington as our starting 3-4 going into the season. I think that we really value defense a lot. I'm saying we like I'm like a member of the Trailblazers.
Well, you kind of were for a minute.
For a minute there. Yeah, that was fun. Shout out working for the Trailblazers Broadcasting. all of the things that like we really needed to come together in this offseason, which was we needed depth. We needed to not play bad basketball players anymore. We needed to not play Mario Hezonja and Anthony Tolliver and Kent Bazemore as our starting lineup. Like, it was just totally fell apart, mainly because of injuries last year. But even where we were lacking, we added better center depth with Enes Kanter. He proved to be really good for us.
Harry Giles was a really underrated signing.
Very underrated signing, especially since Zach Collins probably isn't going to come back until mid-January to like early February. So that's a good month, 2 month span to where Harry Giles is probably going to be in our rotation and probably going to be our backup 4 next to Enes. But adding defense with Robert Covington and Derek Jones Jr., bringing back Hood, who people forget was leading the NBA in three-point percentage. He was shooting 50% from 3 midway through the December mark. And then bringing back Melo. Glue Guy Melo was just great for us last year. And
we're gonna need to get that on a shirt for you.
Glue Guy Melo. Oh,
Glue Guy Melo shirts are gonna be.
I want that to be a thing.
We're gonna have to put that up on our Instagram and just see how many of you guys want a Glue Guy Melo shirt.
It should be everyone. Everyone should be buy into Glue Guy Melo.
It's really going to be Melo holding up like a thing of Elmer's glue and like putting it in his hand like LeBron does, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Everyone knows when LeBron puts like the chalk in his hands, it does that, he throws it up, but it's Melo, which is glue.
Glue Guy Melo tossing it up. I thought that he was going to start when we first signed him, but now everyone's kind of saying that he's going to come off the bench, and I guess he's just decided that he likes Dame and the Blazers enough to be cool with coming off the bench and just being a good citizen and a good vet and stuff. And if that's actually what he's willing to do, he would absolutely cook a lot of bench power forwards and small forwards, because he's definitely still got some game left. Anyways, there's my Blazer rant. I didn't go for too long tonight. But yes,
in all honesty, you guys took yourselves from being like a fringe playoff team to a like lower seeded playoff team to, in my opinion, not necessarily maybe a title contender, but definitely someone who could push the Western Conference Finals.
I think that that's exactly where we are. I mean, in my dream of dreams, I can see the Blazers getting a 2 or 3 seed, because I don't think the Clippers are going to try that hard. So they're the second best team in the West, but may not be the second seed. The Nuggets are also the other team that I think is probably going to be the second seed, but I think that we're now in a position with like quality of players wise, 1 through 13, that we're going to have a chance at getting there now.
Yeah, and you guys made yourself a little bit more injury proof.
Yes, absolutely.
Which was not the case of last year's Blazers, because yes, you guys dealt with a lot of injuries, but like you did not necessarily have the backups to handle that, and now I think you do.
Absolutely. We lost Collins and Hoodie, and we just fell apart. And this year, we already don't have Collins, and we could lose Hoodie, and we'd still be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with another winner here, and that is Devin Booker, because that kid was backpacking over in Phoenix, and now he doesn't have to anymore, because he's got his old buddy Chris Paul coming to town, who's going to come in and take the reins from him and say, hey, man, you don't have to score all of the points. You only have to score some of the points.
Huge winner. Arguably the biggest winner of this whole thing. Hayward got paid and the Lakers are going to win a championship, but Devin Booker is a big winner.
Yeah, I mean, he literally was the Suns for the past 3 years, probably. I mean, since he was drafted, he was been a stud, but for the past 2-3 years, he has been literally the Suns. And now you look at their roster, they're a playoff team. And playoff, Devin Booker is going to be fun to watch. And I think Chris Paul can rub off on Devin Booker and help him on the defensive end, because that's one of his big knocks, is he doesn't play that great of a defense. But Chris Paul is undersized and not necessarily the most athletic, and has always been a good defender. So I think that can rub off on Devin Booker. Chris Paul's passing can rub off on Devin Booker. Like, there's so many aspects of Chris Paul's game that could help Devin Booker on the court and off the court in terms of helping Devin Booker's game get better.
Yes, Devin Booker, like you're saying, he was the Suns, and he was going to go down as one of those guys that was an empty calorie guy that got stats on a losing team. Well, this year they're going to be a winning team. I mean, even if they're make the 9 seed, say like they just barely miss the playoffs or they get into one of those playing games or whatever, which I think is the bare minimum for this Suns team. I could see them going as high as a 3 seed. If everything clicks, like with Chris Paul can just kind of make things click for a team, it is huge for Devin Booker to get a guy of Chris Paul's quality, to get a guy of his type of leadership. The only way I can see this going south is if Chris Paul comes in as like the dictator and everyone is just kind of doesn't buy in, being the young guns and stuff. They just like don't buy into Chris Paul's thing. But I think they really will. I think that all the parties wanted to be involved there. I didn't love it for Chris Paul personally. I think he probably wanted to be on a championship team, but I think he's really buying into the whole being a veteran leader, and Devin Booker is going to be the biggest beneficiary of it because he's actually going to get to go and play in the playoffs and show off what he's really capable of.
I'd agree. And, I mean, you look at the roster that Chris Paul's going to, and, you got Devin Booker, you've got DeAndre Ayton, they went out and got Jay Crowder, they have Mikal Bridges, they have, like, that's a decent starting five. And then you bring in, Jalen Smith, their draft pick. Like, their bench isn't that bad. Like, I agree with you. I think their ceiling is probably, I don't want to say is that high. I would say it's a 4 or 5 seed. But their floor is also, in my opinion, a 6 seed.
Oh, really?
A 6-7 seed. I think, it's a 70-game season. So I think this team can win 45 games.
Wow. That's,
like 40 to 45 games, I don't think is out of the realm of possibility.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility either. You got a good coach. You now have 2 bona fide stars, a rising star in Ayton, quality role players in Cameron Johnson, Jay Crowder, and Mikal Bridges. Anything is really possible with the weird season that's coming up, but this is a team that is definitely primed to make a big jump.
Yeah, I'd agree. And, if you look at just what Chris Paul went to when he went from the Rockets to the Thunder, this Suns roster is better than what he had with the Thunder.
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time.
But it's kind of the same to where, like, Chris Paul, the problem with when he was with the Rockets was, like, he needs the ball in his hands because he makes everyone around him better. And he doesn't really play off the ball very well. You put him in Phoenix. Is there a better off-ball player than Devin Booker?
I don't know, because Devin Booker hasn't really gotten a chance to play off ball all that much in his career. He actually turned himself into a pretty decent ball handler and playmaker because he had to over the last 2 to 3 years. But being able to play off ball is going to launch him into the stratosphere. My bet isn't, like, they don't really talk about him in the same light that they talk about Donovan Mitchell, but I think that they're comparable talents. And I think that you're actually going to see it because Devin Booker will be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and if this bubble showed anything, Devin Booker could vault himself into like a starter in the All-Star game.
Oh yeah, he's very popular. Like already within like kind of young adults, he's really got a really good social media game and stuff. He's always hanging out with the Jenners and whatnot. I could see him. I don't know if he's going to start because of how like good the West always is and how many quality guys you have in the West, but I think that he definitely makes the All-Star game this year.
Yeah, I think he won it. He got to play with someone who is going to help his team and his individual game much better.
Oh, yeah. So he is definitely a big winner just by sitting around and watching his GM make moves. Well done, Devin Booker.
All right, so that exhausts my lists.
All right.
You got anyone left?
I got one guy left.
All right, go.
And it is a loser, and it's a sad loser. It's not a fun loser.
Oh, no.
It's the Warriors.
Oh, yeah. Wow. We probably should have planned this better not to end on this note.
On such a sad note. Unfortunately, for the Warriors, if you haven't heard, Klay Thompson suffered an Achilles tear and is going to spend the second straight season not playing basketball in the NBA, which is really, really sad. Klay Thompson, from everything you hear, is kind of a beloved player and beloved guy, and everyone seems to like him, and there is never going to be another player, I think, in NBA history that can score 60 points on 11 dribbles.
Klay Thompson went to my high school. I, was there when they retired his jersey. He's a little bit older than me, so I wasn't there when he was there, but I wasn't there when his brothers were there. He had his younger brother who was a senior when I was a 8th grader. But I was like going to the high school games and saw his brother play. His dad lives down the street from where I grew up. I don't know the Thompsons well, but I would say that I've been around them, and that family's just a good family. And it sucks to see Klay go down. It's tough. He's a tough guy. He will bounce back. I know that wholeheartedly, but big loss for the Warriors for sure.
Yeah, it's really sad because I really think that they were probably assuming that they're going to be in the championship conversation going into this season. You got Steph back, you got Klay back, you got Draymond coming back. You just drafted James Wiseman. You go and pick up Kelly Oubre. You have Andrew Wiggins. Like, you got Pascal, who had a really great rookie season last year coming off the bench. They had a lot of really good pieces to put around the Steph and Clay experiment, and those guys are so much fun to watch.
The Splash Brothers were the most fun to watch and the most aggravating to watch in the history of the NBA, because literally you could be up 15 and go grab a beer from the fridge and come back and be down 6 and be like, what in the actual hell just happened?
Yeah, they are. I mean, you hated playing against them, but you loved watching them play against other teams.
I mean, that game you were talking about earlier, Clay scored 60 points and held the ball in his hands for less than 90 seconds.
How wild is that?
That is incredible.
That's honestly impossible. That's just a guy who touches it and is just jacking it up. It really doesn't matter where he is and who's guarding him and where the guy is. Like, he's just putting it up and he's making it.
Or that other game where he scored 37 points in a quarter, and it was just like, do yourself a favor, YouTube that, because if you watch that, literally he catches it and shoots it, and it doesn't even matter where he is. Yeah. He is a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. He is the second best shooter in NBA history. It's just a bummer he played with the first best shooter in NBA history, because he's very underappreciated.
And if you get touchy about this with Ray Allen, Klay Thompson's minimum top 5. Absolute minimum. Absolute minimum. But still, you 2 of the top 5 3-point shooters in the history of the game on the same team.
And should have been on defensive first teams. He defended the crap out of the ball. Mm-hmm. I am a big proponent of Steph Curry would not be the type of player if he is without playing next to Klay Thompson, because as great of a player Steph is on offense, his defense is where he gets taken advantage of, and playing next to Klay, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it really is it really is sad to see a guy like that go down at the beginning of a season and not even get a chance to play, because I think the Warriors probably were going to be a top 3 seed and probably going to go and push the Lakers with their totally different style of basketball than what the Lakers do. And as basketball fans, we got robbed of that. Yeah,
I mean, and if you know me, you know I don't like the Warriors. I never liked the Warriors. I didn't like rooting for the Warriors. It still sucks to see a good player go down. It still sucks to see someone who really helped change the game of basketball go down, because Steph and Klay, the Splash Bros, really changed the way people play basketball.
Yes. The entire basketball world has changed because of what the Warriors have done. And again, sad to have them be losers like this in the fashion that they were losers, because it's not like how everyone else may be winners or losers in this offseason, but they for sure are losers because of this terrible thing.
I also don't think this is the only reason they are losers, because in my opinion, there was so much hype about them with the possibility of trading the number 2 pick.
Yeah.
And they didn't actually trade it. I mean, there was rumors that pick was going to get them Bradley Beal. That pick was going to get them Oladipo.
Aaron Gordon.
And they didn't trade it. And yes, they picked Wiseman. It's a good pick, but they could have gone out and got in with that pick, with Andrew Wiggins' contract. I mean, there was a lot of potential and a lot of rumors swirling about it that didn't actually happen.
Yeah, I think that, drafting Wiseman was the safe thing. I also think that they were trying to throw smoke screens out there with every single other prospect on the board, because they're later in the draft process, they're like, oh, we love Avdia and we love Toppin and we love Killian Hayes. It's they're like, we love everyone, but never mentioned Wiseman. And the whole time I was like, everyone knows you're going to draft Wiseman. Stop pretending. I think it would have been, it's still going to be a really great fit for Wiseman and for the Warriors. But yeah, you're right. I think that they could have capitalized a lot more on the assets they had going into this offseason to put themselves more into a championship caliber talk. And after just drafting Wiseman and losing Klay, they're just not in it anymore.
And I'm curious to know, and I don't know if we'll ever know, how much, because Klay got injured the day of the draft.
Yeah.
So how much that impacted their draft? Was there a trade on the board? And they're like, well, in their mind, our future is now, but if these guys aren't going to be around forever, should we pick a guy who could be our cornerstone going forward?
Yes, and I think that definitely got into their heads and probably threw off. Who knows if they had a trade that was accepted by someone else that was going to be for an Aaron Gordon type of guy who is a really high quality starter, but probably not going to get an all-star with the Wiggins in the number 2 pick, just because it's kind of a low caliber pick this particular year. So yeah, I'm willing to bet that they were definitely thrown off. They were willing to go and trade to go get a Marcus Smart or someone like that was being talked about, and then probably were just like, yep, Wiseman's got good potential. He fits what we want right now anyways, so let's just grab him.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a smart call. It's definitely, well, I don't know if it's a smart, it's a safe call. Safe call.
Safe.
They went with the safe route, which nothing wrong with that, but it just, with the amount of rumors flying around, and if I were a Warriors fan, I'd be like, man, what could have been?
Yes.
You know, and you sit there and you think like, oh, if we could have just, because you know the Warriors, like that's just kind of what they do is they go big fish hunting.
Yes.
Like, and they go get, you know, they go sign the random Boogie Cousins. They go make the D-Lo, you know, they go get D-Lo. Like,
yeah.
This was a very un-Warriors-esque of them.
Yes, the entire offseason was very un-Warriors-esque from them, and my guess is probably the decline of the Warriors. You had a great run. You had a great dynasty. Maybe you prove me wrong. Maybe Steph goes and wins MVP this year, and you do make the one seed. It's not out of the realm. I'm not going to put anything past Steph Curry because that guy
Steph Curry
does magical things.
Here's
out
the
there
thing.
on the court.
Without Clay and without KD on that team, Steph Curry's going to have to average like 50 a game.
I'm willing to bet that he puts up 35 a game.
Like he was going to have to go out there and score and score and score. And yes, that might get him an MVP.
Yeah, this could be another MVP season for Steph because they're good enough to be in the playoff picture, but they're not good enough to be in the championship picture. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that this is kind of the decline of the Warriors as a whole. Congratulations on having that dynasty. But I think they also might be pretty good at retooling because Steve Kerr is such a great coach and could be Popovich-like where they hold on to Steph and hold on to Clay as long as they can and kind of continue to be a really good team for a long time. But as of right now, I don't think you're a championship contender.
Yeah, and get well soon, Clay.
Yes.
I mean, basketball
prayers
misses
up for you, Clay, man.
Definitely a big loss for basketball because us fans, as much as you aggravate me every time you hit a dagger against the Mavericks, which you've done a lot of.
Yeah, and
we
the
miss
Blazers.
you.
Trust me, I have a hard time feeling bad for the Warriors since they're just constantly sweeping the Blazers out of the playoffs. But yes, I feel bad for the entire situation. So get well soon, Clay. We can't wait to see you out there again.
Yeah. Well, those are our winners and losers of the NBA offseason so far. Let us know if you agree or disagree. Hit us up on our social media. Comment on our YouTube if you're watching there, or follow us on Spotify if you haven't yet. We really enjoy doing this. We hope you guys like listening. Adios, Pantalones. Raw and Sons. Another one done, man.
Another one done. Adios, Pantalones. Goodbye, Pants.